Right, in this one, we're going to have a look at how my team is set up for game week 4. We're going to have a look at my transfer plans because I've got 2 free transfers to use this week and I'll need to use them. Then we're also going to have a look at chip strategy. I've been thinking a lot about what to do and when to play chips over the first half of the season, and I've come up with a little bit of a plan for my team, so we're going to get into that as well. Okay, we're going to go straight into my team for this week because I looked at game week 3 in my transfer plans video and how I got on, and also it's been so long that nobody probably cares anyway. So, as you can see, 2 free transfers, 4 million in the bank. So I did Palmer to Sarr last week and I saved the other transfer. But yeah, goalkeepers isn't great for this week, to be honest. I've got Kelleher with Chelsea at home and Dubravka with Liverpool at home. Neither are great fixtures, but that's kind of what you get when you don't spend much on goalkeepers. This is the trade-off that I kind of have to deal with because I haven't spent much on goalkeepers. I don't have like a Sanchez who's got good fixtures. I don't have a Sells who, granted, doesn't have a good fixture this week, but in general is pretty good. However, if you've watched my channel before, you will know that I don't care about goalkeepers. I will spend as little as possible on goalkeepers to get 2 playing ones, or at least a 4.5 million playing one and a 4 million like best option, which this year we've got Dubravka who is playing, so that's all good. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm not expecting points from the goalkeeper position. If I get a couple save points from Kelleher, then great. However, if I don't have João Pedro in my team, so if there is a clean sheet, that means João Pedro has blanked and Kelleher has kept a clean sheet. That would be unbelievable, but unlikely. Anyway, onto the defenders now, and I've got Chris Richards with Sunderland at home. Now, if you watched my team selection video from game week 1, now this is quite a while ago, you may not have watched it, but what I did, and what I always do every year, is look at my 5 defenders that I'm picking and look for the first 6, 7, 8 game weeks, however many game weeks it is, and I will basically look to make sure that I've got 3 good playing options every single week. Now, the reason I do that is because obviously you can't really plan for the things that happen in the future, but I like to plan as much as I can, and I like to ideally not have to use a defender transfer in the first 6 or so weeks, to be honest, because the bulk of the points, maybe less so this season because of defensive contributions, but the bulk of the points and players that are unpredictable will come from the midfielders and the forwards, meaning that ideally, if possible, you don't want to use transfers in the defensive areas. This is what I did last season. This is what I've done this season. Now, this is where one of the weeks where Murillo wasn't an option to play. He's got Arsenal away. In the next couple of weeks, he's got good fixtures. He had good fixtures previously, albeit he didn't do anything. But this is one of the weeks where I knew I couldn't play Murillo. So I needed my 4th defender to have a good fixture, which is pretty much why I went for Chris Richards, because he's got Sunderland at home this week, a very, very good fixture. Palace have looked unbelievable defensively. In the Premier League, they've kept 2 clean sheets out of 3. They've also kept 2 clean sheets in the Europa League in that time. So it's 4 clean sheets in 5 games so far this season, which is pretty good. Chris Richards is also not bad for defensive contributions. He's not quite as good as Lacroix, but he's also 0.5 million cheaper. So I'm basically just really happy I started with Richards, and I'm happy to have him this week. Van de Ven, Porro. This fixture is not looking as good as it did a couple of weeks ago. After the first 2 game weeks, West Ham looked awful. Spurs looked really good, especially defensively. Now, not so much. West Ham kind of battered Nottingham Forest, to be honest, in game week 3. Really unexpected performance from both of those teams. And then Spurs versus Bournemouth was a pretty unexpected one as well, given that Spurs hardly created anything. Bournemouth created a lot. The scoreline didn't really tell the story. It could have been kind of more goals for Bournemouth. So this fixture doesn't look that great. Porro's always a good option. He'll be on some set pieces. He will get forward. Van de Ven, not so much. But yeah, I don't have a better option this week. I can't play Esteve with Liverpool at home. I can't play Murillo with Arsenal away. So this is where I'm at. I'm on double Spurs defence. Now, if we go into the midfield, so Bruno Fernandes has Man City away. Not an ideal fixture. He is just kind of a player who will play every single game for me. I have no plans of transferring him out. He's just an unbelievable FPL option at 9 million. So he will pretty much be in my team every single week. Then obviously I've got Sarr. The vice captaincy is on him, but that doesn't really mean anything because he is injured. Now, at the time of me recording this is before the Crystal Palace press conference, so I don't actually know the extent of his injury. It's been reported that it's 6 to 8 weeks, but then straight after the game, he also thought he was fine. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, like I said, it's been reported 6 to 8 weeks, but I'm not that confident that that's true. We'll have to wait and see for the press conference on that. If he is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, so then I'll transfer him out. If it's less serious, then I'm not 100% sure. I might keep him if he's likely to be back for game week 5 or maybe 6. I'll be free hitting in 6, as I'll talk about later. But yeah, the chances are I'll be transferring him out essentially, but I'll talk about the transfers after. I've got Salah with Burnley away. He is obviously my captain. Now, he hasn't been great so far this season, of course, but I'm not selling him. I'm not captaining him against Burnley away and against Everton next week because it's only been 3 game weeks, but statistically, those 2 teams have been the worst defences so far. They are 19th and 20th for XG conceded, shots conceded, whatever stat you want to look at. They are the worst 2 defences. So I've also got Wirtz, who again hasn't been great. He did look better in the second half in Liverpool's game in game week 3, but we haven't seen much from him really to get excited about. He did limp off in that game though in game week 3, but we do know he's not injured because he played for Germany, both games as well. So he is fully fit. That's not an issue. It's more just a performance issue than anything else. Reinders, the fixture isn't perfect. Man United at home, but I just think he's a ridiculously good option at his price. I mean, he hasn't scored points in the last 2 games, but he's played 90 minutes in every single game, which is more than we could have asked for pre-game week 1. And all the players that could take minutes off of him are just not options anymore. Gundogan has left the club. Foden seems to have a little injury. Shirky's injured, so it looks like Reinders is just going to continue to play minutes and he will be in my team. So this is the midfield. I'll get onto the forwards and then I'll talk about transfers. So on the bench, I've got Mark Gui, obviously. He could leave the team this week. We'll talk about that in a bit. I've got Watkins and I've got Thiago. So Watkins has Everton away. As I mentioned, Everton statistically have been one of the worst defences in the league this season so far. It is a very small sample of only 3 games, of course. But I just can't see a world where I sell Watkins in the next few weeks. They've been awful, Villa. They really have been bad. They haven't scored a goal in the first 3 games, which is really poor. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't underestimate how bad that is. They have been awful. But when they've got fixtures this good, and we know how good they've been under Emery previously, I just can't sell him with these fixtures. So he'll be staying. The time that I might look to sell him, or probably will look to sell him, is around kind of game week 7, 8-ish, where Gyökeres and Arsenal's fixtures turn massively. We'll talk about that in a bit, but yeah, I can't see myself selling him until that happens and for Gyökeres, unless kind of an injury or suspension happens. Thiago has Chelsea at home. Obviously not an ideal fixture. Better for my team than most. A lot of people might have Sanchez in goal. I don't, so I wouldn't have a striker playing against a goalkeeper, which I don't typically like. But the Chelsea defence hasn't looked that bad. I mean, it hasn't looked that good, but it also hasn't looked particularly bad. So I don't really mind playing him this week. I think with my transfers, I probably won't have to play him this week, or I've got the option to not play him, I guess. But it's a cheap forward. He's on penalties, so I don't really like benching a penalty taker ever. But yeah, anyway, on to the transfers now. So if you watched my team selection video from Game Week 3, you'll know that my plan with that 4 million in the bank was to do Mark Gui up to Mateta, which I still might do. I could just do that move, bench Sarr, and then if Sarr's back soon, then that looks great because I've then got Sarr, I've got Mateta in, and it's all good. However, the more likely scenario is that Sarr is going to be out for a while, so I'll have to sell him. Now, that 4 million in the bank, the transfers that I'm looking at right now are Gui to Mateta still, and then Sarr to Semenyo. Now, I've got exact funds for that move. meaning that if we get one drop from Sarr or Gui, or we get one rise from Mateta or Semenyo, I'm priced out of that and I can't do that move. The problem I've got is that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to the press conferences without one of those things happening, a drop or a rise. For kind of transparency, I'm recording this on Wednesday, so I've got to get through a price rise / drop tonight, potentially. You're probably watching this on Thursday, so you'll know if that's happened or not. But I don't really want to move before I've heard anything about Sarr. I don't think I will move early because I think there is a small, albeit small, but still a chance that Sarr isn't out for 6 to 8 weeks. So I don't think I'll be moving early. But that's the transfer I like. If I can't do that move and I'm priced out, then I will have to basically do the same moves, I think, but get a cheaper mid. Now that mid doesn't need to play this week, so I'm quite happy playing all of these guys. Reinders or Thiago would be the two guys that I'd bench if I brought someone in. Now there is some options. There's like Kudos, there's Everton options like Ndai, there's Brighton options like Matoma or Ruta. Don't really like the Brighton rotation and how that looks at the moment. There's also Paquetá, who isn't a bad option, but given he's on penalties and should get good minutes, but I'm not as keen on any of them as I am Semenyo. So ideally, I'd like to get Semenyo and Mateta in. But yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. There is obviously a world where I just don't do the Sarr move. Like I say, even if Sarr is out for quite a few weeks, I'm quite happy playing all of these guys. So if I just do Gui to Mateta, then I can just bench Sarr and deal with him next week maybe. So yeah, that's my thinking. It will likely be, someone like Ruta, Mitoma, Kudos or Paqueta if I can't get Semenyo, basically. So that's my plans for this week. Now what I want to do is go through the following weeks and talk about chips and my plans for when I'm going to use these chips. Okay, so what I've got here is my team from FPL.team. If you don't know about FPL.team, then check them out. Really cool website where you can like make transfers and plan game weeks ahead, which is really useful when you're planning chips. So do check them out. But what I've done here is I've made those moves that I was talking about. So I've done Gui to Mateta and I have done Sarr to Semenyo. As you can see, I've got Reinders on the bench here. I'm not actually sure who I'd bench, like I say, if I did those moves. But right now I've just done Reinders. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through each of the weeks up until game week 8, because you'll see why in a second. But chips wise, my thinking, so I think around game week 6 or on game week 6, Haaland plays Burnley, which I will want Haaland for. I've got Reinders for that fixture. I've not got any other City players. I will want to captain Haaland against Burnley in game week 6. So my options are to find a way to transfer him in by that point. That's going to require either losing Salah or moving a lot of players around to essentially get the funds to be able to get him in. The other option is use wildcard or free hit around that time so that I can get him in. Now, I'm thinking of doing a free hit in game week 6. Now, the reason for that is because I think I want Salah. I definitely want Salah beforehand. So I want Salah this week. I want Salah in game week 5 for Everton. I think I then prefer Salah to Haaland from game week 7 onwards as well, meaning it's just game week 6 that I want Haaland for. So the free hit just makes perfect sense for that week. Now, it would have, last week I bought Sarr and I had plans to buy Mateta this week because that is the week that Palace play Liverpool. So obviously a pretty bad fixture for Palace, but outside of that, their fixtures are nice and I'll be free hitting in that week, so I wouldn't have to play those guys anyway. That hasn't worked out because Sarr is injured, obviously. Semenyo, so when I'm looking at a midfielder to buy this week, I don't need to worry about game week 6. Now, Semenyo plays Leeds in game week 6 anyway, so it hasn't really worked out that I've bought a player that kind of is bad for game week 6 but is good elsewhere. He's just good in general in game week 6 as well. I'd probably keep him on my free hit, to be honest, but I still think it's a good plan because I've still got 2 Palace here. I've got Mateta, I've got Richards. They don't have a good fixture in game week 6, like I say. So My plan is to free hit in game week 6. Now, I also want a bench boost pretty soon. Palmer going out and being injured has given us this kind of opportunity to spread some funds around. Now, most of us from Palmer have gone down to a cheaper mid. So I went to Saar last week. I'll now potentially have Semenyo in there. It won't be a midfielder that's very expensive in there, regardless of who it is. Now, that's given us a bit of an opportunity to essentially spread some funds around and put some funds into our bench. Like, for example, Mark Gui was a player that I'm looking at selling this week with the idea to bench boost. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had Palmer. Whereas now we can spread the Palmer funds around a bit, do a bench boost whilst we've got all these funds, and then after the bench boost, potentially get Palmer back in. So game week 9-ish is when I'm looking at getting Palmer back in. Now, what for my specific team I need to look at is what week is best for bench boost coming up. Now, that kind of relies on Burnley, given that I've got Esteve, I've got Dubravka. So as we move through these weeks, we can essentially look at what week is best for that bench boost. So this is what I look like in game week 4. We went through it. We don't need to go through that too much more. Game week 5 now, and you'll see here, the bench doesn't actually look that bad. So I've got Kelleher in goal there. I've got Porro, Murillo, Richards. Don't mind all of them defenders. Like I say, I kind of went up to game week 6, 7, maybe even 8. I can't remember when I was looking at the defenders. So I know that defender-wise, I'm pretty good most weeks. Then I've got Salah, who's got Everton at home. Virtue's got Everton at home. The midfield looks okay that week. Reinders is on the bench of Arsenal away. I've got Mateta, Thiago and Watkins, who've all got good fixtures that week. So, and like I say, the bench looks okay. Because Burnley play Forest at home, it's not a bad fixture. I wouldn't hate if I had to bench boost in game week 5. I know quite a few people are considering it. So that's definitely an option. However, it's not the week that I prefer, and we'll get onto that. Game week 6, it doesn't really matter about game week 6. Like I say, I am most likely going to be free hitting here. I mean, the team doesn't look bad. Like I say, I planned kind of defenders-wise anyway, so my defence looks good. I've got Porro with Wolves at home. I've got Van der Ven with Wolves at home. I've got Murillo of Sunderland at home. Defence looks really good. This is all with no transfers as well, as you can see up the top. I've got 2 free transfers in the bank here, but I'll be free hitting, so it doesn't matter too much. Then we get on to game week 7. Now, this is where I could look to sell Murillo, to be honest, because Arsenal's fixtures get really good here. So I don't have any money in the bank to get up to kind of Gabriel or anything like that. And that's probably what I would want to do here. But it is something that I would be considering here. Although, again, my defence doesn't look bad because I planned it. I knew that Murillo didn't have a great fixture in game week 7, so I needed my other defender to have a good fixture, which is why I got Richards with Everton away. Now, the Everton attack is better than it was last season, don't get me wrong, but it's still not a particularly bad fixture. The other players have got pretty good fixtures here as well. This is roughly when I'd be looking to do Watkins to Gyökeres. Maybe not this week because Watkins has Burnley at home. I'd maybe have to just swerve that a little bit. I think Arsenal have West Ham this week. So I'd maybe just wait until game week 8 to do that move. And maybe even wait to get the defender in then as well. So I've got 3 free transfers here. The bench doesn't look great for this one though. Obviously, as you can see, Thiago has Man City at home. There's better weeks for it. Game week 8 is when I'm looking at the bench boost. Now, that's mainly because Esteve and Dubravka have Leeds at home. Obviously, a good fixture. Thiago has West Ham away. Again, a good fixture. And Murillo's fixture isn't great, but like I say, he'd probably be gone by that point to an Arsenal defender. All the other defenders look okay. So Spurs have Aston Villa at home. Palace have Bournemouth at home. Not ideal that Semenyo would be playing against that, but you can't have it every week where all of your attackers aren't playing one of your defenders. All the other players look okay. This is again a week where Wirtz might have gone by this point. If he's really not done anything, then the fixtures do get a little bit worse here. So Wirtz would maybe be my way back up to Palmer. But all of the other players look okay. And the players that I really care about bench boost wise are the 2 Burnley guys who've got Leeds at home. Thiago will kind of be my 8th attacker and he's got West Ham away. So that's why my thinking is bench boost in game week 8. So free hit in game week 6, bench boost in game week 8. I can then take some money out of these places, and this is how I get Palmer back. So Verts, like I say, can become Palmer again, probably in game week 9, because then I don't need a full bench anymore. So Thiago can come down to Mark Gui again, potentially. Or I can take money out of any of these positions, really, because I know that I won't be bench boosting again till after the next wildcard. So this is basically my plans. Obviously, injuries, suspensions, anything can mess this up, but this is without any transfers, and obviously I've got 4 transfers in the bank here. So this is my initial thinking. For the wildcard, I don't really have a plan of when to use it. I think that in game week 13, there's a lot of fixture swings, so that might be quite a good time to use it. I don't really want to plan it in just because I'm using bench boost, I'm using free hit all quite early. I'd rather just save wildcard a little bit so that I kind of have a chip to fall back on if anything weird happens, like cancellations to games or anything like that. So that's where I'm at with my team. If you've got any questions on my team or my plans, do drop them in the comments. If you've got any questions on your team, drop them in the comments. But for now, that's all. Do hit like, do subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.